The information provided on this channel is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for, nor does it replace or constitute professional medical advice, nor does it establish any sort of patient-client relationship. If you are seeking medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or have any concerns or questions about your health, please always consult a physician or other healthcare professional. Do not disregard, avoid, or delay obtaining medical or health-related advice from your healthcare professional because of something you may have heard or learned on this channel. The use of any information provided on this channel, Healing Together, is solely at your own risk.
Hey guys, on this episode we will be discussing with Eileen the benefits of NIR saunas and how they differ from FIR, her healthy salt formulation and how it alone can support a tremendous amount of detox, and why it's different than other salts on the market, and finally, the benefits of using low PUFA tallow lotion, which I like to personally use and have had wonderful results with. Now, on with the show.
Hi guys, welcome to the Healing Together podcast. I'm your host for today, Dr. Nick Baboulas, ND, and today on the show we have Eileen Durfee. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, perfect. So she's the founder and owner of Creatrix Solutions, and some people call her the Gizmo Woman because, from what I understand, you re-engineer things and invent new things to maximize health benefits for people. So I'm excited for the community to learn more about you, your products, and your devices. But before we get into the specifics of your devices and your products, I just want to know, and I think the community wants to know, your origin story. So if you can give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. Well, I've been sick my whole life. It started when the doctors ripped me out with forceps, but I had congenital, tissue issues where I was kind of twisted. So I had to wear special shoes. Every time I walked, one knee ran into the other leg. I had, leg pains from the time I was a toddler. And then I had a really abnormal growth spurt. Like over the course of 3 months, I grew 9 inches.
Oh, wow.
And it was so painful. And to make matters worse, I was walking in a parking lot at a grocery store and a car ran me over.
Oh, wow.
And that was just horrific. And I met a chiropractor then who helped me with my structure and really rehabilitated me because they thought that, neurologists and everybody else thought I'd just be disabled. And so that was phenomenal. But I got a silver amalgam filling when I was like 20. And then it was all downhill from there. I became what they call a universal reactor. Everything that I would eat, I would become allergic to. Later on, I learned about the leaky gut, and the candida. Sure. But then the real cause of that's the weak adrenal glands. And so I've just really been never giving up because, they had me on low dose antibiotics and antihistamines all the time. And the quality of life was horrible. And I became allergic to all antibiotics. And so I had to do something.
For sure.
So I just kept on researching. I started doing, the Bernard Jensen tissue management through bowel cleansing. I, ate paleo before there was paleo existed in the 80s. I did the rotation diet, you name it, got into hair analysis. That was kind of like a turning point for me. And then focusing on, how to get my detoxification pathways open. I was a former nuclear engineer and, I didn't have any brothers. There's a lot of inventors in my family. And so I would just buy all these gizmos, for detoxification or whatever, and try them. And then I would just think about, I wished it was this or that. And I just go to sleep and I literally have dreams and I just see pictures of the new device. And so then I build them. And so I just really know that time is precious, energy is precious. And when you're sick, you need something that's easy to use, that really works, that's non-toxic, because a lot of times we're trying to do something good for our body and we're, adding more burdens with
Hmm.
toxins. And so I'm just a real stickler about, making good products that work, that are safe. And so that's kind of been my journey. And now I'm 60 years old, and I mean, I don't have allergies. I don't have psoriasis all over my body. I don't have Hashimoto's anymore. I mean, it's my hair has gotten thick again, my skin, everything. So it's like I'm now into, anti-aging, living a more active, healthier life. My grandma lived till she was 99, and oh my gosh, her last 20 years was horrible. And so I want to have a really good quality life. And so now I'm not in any pain. I sleep well. I have energy. So it's like a gift that I want to give other people.
For sure. Well, that's pretty amazing. Of course, I'm sure there's so much more in that story that you haven't said, but it got to the point where you created all these different kind of devices and products. And I think that's the key thing, because this community deals with complex chronic illness, right? So they're veterans. They've been around for like 5, 10, 15 or more years, kind of dealing with their health issues. And others in the community are kind of like biohackers. They want to optimize their health once they've gained it. So it seems like your products kind of go hand in hand with this community as well. So I guess, and like we said earlier, like go into the science of stuff as you explain things, because this is a really smart community. I learn a lot from them too, when I read their comments on different topics. So it's great for them to kind of learn from you today. So I guess the first thing that you have for us is kind of your sauna. I know you have your SaunaFix. There's some uniqueness to it, but I guess before we even get into the saunas, just can you explain a little bit the difference between like the NIR versus the FIR?
Sure. I started out with a far infrared sauna, and people know those as like a dry sauna that's in a box and you have multiple heaters all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was getting good sweating there. And what those frequencies of light, it's 3000 nanometers and more. They actually don't have a biological effect on your cells, but they do cause the water molecules in your body to move, so that friction causes internal heat. And from sauna studies, we know that heat stress therapy, the benefits are undisputed. I mean, you take saunas, you're going to die of less problems. You're going to live a longer, healthier life. They've been around for thousands of years. So, we had the heater in the room, the traditional, that's based on ambient air temperature. So when we went to the dry sauna or the far infrared sauna, at the time, we didn't know that it had harmful EMFs and all these kinds of things. So now the sauna manufacturers have gotten a lot smarter about making that safer. And, typically you have to preheat that box up, and it'll get to about 145 degrees versus the traditional sauna, 180 degrees, where it's harder for some people to breathe. So that transition in the marketplace made it easier for some people to take a sauna because they could breathe easier. It wasn't as hot, yet they were still sweating, and they, felt the benefits of that. And, the other thing about the far infrared is it doesn't have as deep, a penetration, into the body. And that's the kind of sauna that I had. And I was having good results. And I had a doctor recommend using the incandescent bulb near infrared sauna. And I thought, this guy must be prejudiced, because that's the kind of sauna that, he wanted people to have. And my son was at the University of Washington at the time. And I'm like going, what's the difference, son, between, the near infrared? He goes, oh, Mom, photobiomodulation, we're studying that right now. So he sent me all the information that, the University of Washington gives the students. And he's like saying, that's the reason why we have life on planet Earth, photosynthesis, in your skin, and how it activates the mitochondria to produce ATP. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here, most everyone has compromised digestion, because we eat food for our body to break it down and to create ATP. So here's a hack that you just shine this light on your skin and your body produces it. And unlike like laser therapy, which is also a form of photobiomodulation, you can get it over concentrated in the cell because the beam is so narrow. But with the heat lamp bulb, with it spread out, there's studies showing that, when a cell has enough, it just kind of goes on to the next cell. So it's more of a systemic, safe treatment. And I decided, okay, I'm going to try this because I was going to go on a trip, and I was doing daily saunas in my far infrared sauna, and I didn't want to miss out on that. So I had some light panels, and you're doing it in an enclosure. Canvas it was really rough for me because it just was really hard to get a super sweat on like I had in my far infrared sauna. So I built like 2 light panels, to get the sweat on. But when I was on day 1, I thought, well, this feels good. I'm just not sweating very much. And then day 2, I sweat a little more. By day 3, I sweat even more, and I had this energetic feeling come over my body, like a calmness. It was just so hard to describe that it was like I was totally sold on near infrared because it was really working. I could feel the effects not only of the extra energy in my body, but there was something else going on. And then I realized, through reading and research, the parasympathetic nervous system was involved. It's like with the near infrared incandescent bulbs, your body shifts more. I mean, we do a lot of things to shift out of fight or flight.
For sure.
With meditation, and trying to think different thoughts and all these things. But here's something that can shift you super fast was that parasympathetic action of just being in there, and it feels so good, kind of like if you go out in the sun and you can feel that shift. And so I was transformed. Then I decided, okay, so I needed something better than canvas because there's no insulation value. So I did, even though I'm getting that activation, you're getting internal heat build up by having the incandescent bulb, create energy at the cell level. So, you're going to get your core body temperature up with the incandescent bulb sauna, which is going to be beneficial, but with all of that heat stress therapy where you can get the higher rectal temperatures, where you can get the heavier sweating, you're going to have more heat shock proteins. That's one of the benefits of taking a sauna, and you can get more of those heat shock proteins when you have a better enclosure. So I started out, checking all kinds of materials, trying to maximize. And then, I just woke up one day and it's like, you know what? Light travels at the speed of light. Let's don't let it leave. Because then you've got every second you're in this sauna times by the speed of light, you're getting that much more maximized phototherapy because it will bounce around. And so I ended up making an enclosure that was an R12 insulation with the radiant panel so that you could get that maximized phototherapy. So then in 5 minutes, it's 120 degrees, but we're finding out that, if a regular person takes, any other kind of sauna and then jumps in the SaunaFix or something special that happens where they're sweating twice as much in half the time. And I came across a European study about sweat, like you exercise and there's sweat, and they analyze what's in the sweat and it's more mineral content versus if you're taking a sauna, it's more toxic byproducts that are in your sweat. So it's a better, detoxification when you're in the sauna. But one of the studies was showing that if you inhaled 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter, that's the size of a sugar cube, that your rectal temperature won't go down, because that's the first thing. Your body gets under stress. It's a homeostatic response. It's okay, let's cool us down. So we're going to lower the rectal temperature. So with inhaling the negative ions, you do not have that response. So your body's less stressed and the sweat volume doubles. It actually even changes the electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. And then when you get out of the sauna, your rectal temperature continues to rise. So this was kind of like this interesting phenomenon. And so, once I had the panels and I was taking the sauna and I was starting to get feedback from people were having much more pain relief, more flexibility, more energy. But even though it's a dry sauna, when you're really heavily sweating, you notice the humidity rises in those saunas. So I became concerned about rebreathing the toxic humidified sauna sweat. And I created a little device because, we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. We went from those traditional saunas where you're pouring the water over the rocks. That releases negative ions in the air. And that whole sauna study was based on certain heaters with the components of the metal structure of them was producing poisonous positive ions. So people were more fatigued versus certain kinds of components were producing the negative ions. So that's how I ran into that. But so we added a product called the Breeze Safe to even increase your sweat volume. And when they studied those people, it was like you'd think, okay, your rectal temperature's hotter, your skin surface temperatures are hotter, your sweat volume's double. You'd think you'd be exhausted, right? All the people in the study felt more refreshed. They felt better. And so the Breeze Safe is kind of part of what I really, have people think about to maximize their time. Because that's the other thing is like, we don't have much time. So how many things can we do simultaneously
For sure.
to benefit our health, to feel better? Because, otherwise, we might not do something. I mean, how many people have a garage full of gizmos they never use? Okay. So with this SaunaFix system, I tried to deal with a multitude of issues, like, also going with organic cotton, with, in Europe, they have what they call an ROHS standard, which is way different than America. Like, your pants have a metal zipper. In America, we can have 50% more lead than Europe is allowed to have. So we don't realize a lot of times where we're picking up all these toxins from. And so with the frame, with the coating and everything else, everything is ROHS certified, where I get the certificates from, the components. And then I sent the whole, apparatus completed for the testing so that we know that it's safe. So we don't have, lead in the zippers or the paint, or, the bamboo mats were boiled and baked under pressure instead of using fumigation chemicals. And so I've, tried to create the safest haven, for that. But with the frequencies in a near infrared, the incandescent heat lamp bulb, at first I was just using Philips bulbs, because I thought, hey, a heat lamp bulb is a heat lamp bulb. And I had a medical laser sales rep by my sauna, and she was having joint pain. Of course, I didn't have joint pain taken at sauna with the Philips heat lamp bulbs, but she did. So she started reading, and so she bought TheraBulbs and she reported back to me. She says, Eileen, it's so different. I don't have any of that. So of course I had to buy TheraBulbs, put them in my sauna, try it. And I sweat more. Now I didn't have pain before or after. And so I started looking, contacted Philips, contacted TheraBulb, found the spectrum chart for the bulbs. And sure enough, there's different spectrums for heat lamp bulbs. They're not all the same. So actually Ruby Lux and Therabulb are pretty much the same. It's just the Ruby Lux has a darker coating than the Therabulb. And so I actually found the factory where they're both made in and had bulbs made. So when someone buys a sauna from me, they can have a set. And then got them tested and everything. And so the near infrared, where it's different, because far infrared saunas, are, 3,000 nanometers and higher. So that's going to give you heat stress therapy with, interacting with the water molecules in your body. So you have a lot of water, so that's great, but you're not getting the mitochondria activated, the biochemical biological reaction in the body. So with the heat lamp bulbs, the spectrum chart is 550, and I ran the test to 3,000, but it was already, up on the chart. So it's going off, to probably about 3,400. And so it climbs steep like a mountain. So the most intensity that you're getting in this incandescent bulb sauna is the near infrared. So you're getting some of the far, which we'll talk later about the 3,000 nanometer and how special that is for hydration and hydroelectric energy production in the body because of the fourth phase of water. But so that spectrum of light with the heat lamp bulbs is very good. And so there's some sauna manufacturers, because, after all, cancer.gov is shining near infrared light on inoperable tumors. There's a lot of research now about how beneficial near infrared light is. And so they didn't want to stop making saunas, right? So what they've done is they've put in little tiny LED bulbs, which do not give the intensity or the quantity of near infrared light that you're going to want to really see the difference.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, I think it was just a marketing scheme to say, hey, we're multi-spectrum. And so, but there's just so much difference when you take an LED bulb and measure the intensity of light wave frequencies from a heat lamp bulb. It's just night and day. It's just like a drop in the bucket compared to an ocean. And, the other thing when I was designing my sauna, thinking about materials. So you can even have a wooden sauna, but people don't realize that the pitch in the wood is a volatile organic compound. So when you're in a sauna, and that's why I think some people are sensitive, ultra sensitive to wooden saunas, is because when you heat up the pitch and you smell that's actually a volatile organic compound at low levels. Well, with, health challenges, we're looking at, the straws on the camel's back. And so we're trying to take some off, and it doesn't work very well when you're adding a little bit while trying to take some off. So you're just going to get further along if you just are ultra clean, ultra safe. And so I didn't use any wood, in my sauna because of that. And there's a brand, they're $8,000. They have the, clean glues, low EMFs, all this. And I have other doctors that have that, spent $8,000 on that, and they use my sauna and recommend my sauna because of how it makes them feel. There's just something different about light not leaving, maximizing the phototherapy, getting a really heavy sweat on. And the other difference between your far infrared saunas and an incandescent bulb sauna is blood shunting, which it's a phenomenon. And I don't know, Dr. Nick, if you noticed that when you first took a sauna in the SaunaFix. Did you notice that you started sweating on one side of your body more than the other?
Yeah, for sure. Like it was a different experience because I've used many different saunas, I'll be honest with you. And I've used a lot of different red lights as well. So I can truly see the difference in terms of what you're talking about in that regard. But I guess in terms of the components just of your sauna, because I think like the community really picks at the gritty details. I know that you've, in terms of your design, the reflective part is the, like you were saying earlier about that part, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the EMF blocking capacity too, versus like your sauna versus other, like you were saying, like competitors in terms of their TP saunas.
Right. Well, I had a lot of people that were asking for like a Faraday cage or grounding and everything like that. And, you know, even without that, my sauna panels, you try to use a remote with that radiant blocking, you can't control any electronic device. It blocks, you know, all of that. And so I wasn't too concerned about that. It's like the sauna enclosure is really the safest place in your home. But people were really concerned about that. So what I did, because the panels are metal, you know, they're a 5-layer panel. They have a, you know, a clear polymer, and it's all ROHS certified. So you don't have to worry about any outgassing. And then like a space blanket material, bubble wrap for the insulation, and then layers on the inside. So it's sandwiched together, encased with organic cotton binding, and then you have the zippers. So what I did is I just put a metal snap on each panel and created these little jumper cables where you just snap one panel to the other. So it's a continuous metal connection. And the same thing on the back of the mats. I have the same space blanket material with the metal snap. So you can actually interconnect, daisy chaining the mats, the panels into the ground. Would give you like an 18-foot long curly cord to plug in the round ground of your wall receptacle so that you can ground that. And so it's not 100% because of the cotton binding where the zippers are. It's not 100% Faraday cage, but you know, you're getting a 90% reduction. But then you're grounding too. You can be grounding while you're taking the sauna. And so that's, you know, an aspect, you know, that we added so that, you know, people can use that. Some people actually don't like to have that extra, like a Faraday cage. You know, I was just talking with a gentleman yesterday, but so he was glad that it was optional where he could just ground the mat, but not ground the panels, you know, for him. But let's see, what was the other question you asked about?
Well, it was more about just like the EMF, like you're saying. So there's the grounding mats that you have that you put in there, but then just in terms of the design of how you've allowed it to be also EMF blocking, like you said, it's the safest place in the home.
Right.
So that's a big thing, because a lot of people, like even you were saying earlier about your lights, a lot of times there's a lot of radiation coming off them too as well, right? In terms of that stuff, in terms of EMFs, even from light emission. So in terms of yours, from what I understand, it's very low or minimal at depth.
There's a video on my Instagram where one of the biohackers has all the meters, and he has the yoga version of the SaunaFix, and you know, it's like barely registerable. And that's because we've got the grounded electrical cord with the shielded wiring. And then of course, incandescent heat lamp bulbs, you know, emit very little. So with it grounded and shielded, you know, that lamp is just ultra safe. You can't get any lower than that and have a sauna.
For sure. So that's pretty amazing. That's great stuff. And I'm wondering, just in terms of like finishing off the sauna topic, like from your perspective, because like you're pro at this in terms of like a veteran in this field, of course. So like, what's the ideal time for a person to be in a sauna? From like think of it from a chronic illness patient, from like very weak and fatigued, to a person, more general person in terms of just their overall health. Like, what do you
right
in general?
It really varies, because I literally have clients that if they exercise at all, you know, which stimulates the adrenal and the thyroid gland to boost their metabolism, they get anxiety attacks. So when you're in a sauna, it's going to boost your metabolism. So they're going to get anxiety attacks. So I've actually counseled some people to leave the door open, sit as far away from the lights as you can, and only start with 5 minutes. So I've had somebody so bad, so weak, that that's where they started. And it took them over 6 months to be able to close the door and take a 10-minute sauna. But, you know, so everybody needs to start and let their body be their guide, and to realize that also your blood sugars are going to drop when you do a sauna. And so those individuals who are sensitive to that, you know, maybe hypoglycemic or whatever, is to have a nice protein snack ready to go after you get out of the sauna. I mean, another tip that I would give for someone is to drink water beforehand with a mineralized salt, like healthy salt. It's 20% minerals, because it also has a negative charge. And so we'll talk about the benefits of that. And, you know, you can drink water when you're in the sauna, but one of the tips I would say is, because we're trying to increase your core body temperature. So like drink water before and after, you know, but not necessarily during. But it's okay if you drink during. But typically a healthy person, if they're used to taking a sauna, and let's say they normally take a 30-minute sauna session, they're probably gonna get the same heavy sweating if they're in the SaunaFix with the Breathe Safe in only 15 minutes.
Okay.
And, what was your experience when you went in there versus the other ones?
Yeah, I think you sweat pretty quickly. Like once you start sweating, you go pretty profusely. So I guess the question for the general audience is, once you start sweating, how long should you sweat for?
You know, I would say, you know, it really depends on someone's mineral pattern. There's people that have very low minerals, like on a hair test or something.
Yeah.
And those people, once they start profusely sweating, just a minute of that and get out, because otherwise they're gonna, you know, it's gonna be too much for them. But
For sure.
for other people, they're like, you know, can sweat 10, 15 minutes and get out, rest, maybe go jump in a cold plunge and get back in. Because there's studies that show, as far as the heat shock proteins and the health benefits, is it's better to do multiple, you know, back to back. But there's a lot of people that can't do that. There's people that can't even do, well, they'll be fine if they do like a 15, 20-minute session in the SaunaFix, but they can't do a coffee enema the same day because it'll just wipe them out. You know, so it's like it's something that you really have to build up, and it's really an individualized situation. But you know, the SaunaFix system is the only incandescent bulb sauna approved by Hope for Cancer out of, you know, Cancun and Tijuana. And it's the only sauna approved by the Heal High Lyme group. And it's because of the, you know, the extra effects you get from this system that's in the design, the maximized phototherapy, the, you know, the Breathe Safe, where you're getting changes with the rectal temperature, you know, because you can kill co-infections. And the other neat thing about the design of the SaunaFix, you know, that's unique, is the tent panels are smooth. You know, one thing you have to think about is, if you have a porous material and you're sweating, and we know from studies that there's more toxins in that sweat, that is going to cling to a non-porous surface to be reheated up. And, you know, when you think about some of these chemicals coming out of our body, some of them are subvolatile organic compounds, some of them are volatile organic compounds. And when you mix heat with subvolatile organic compounds, that's why I never would use anything but organic cotton, because of the GMO-ready fibers to heat up the subvolatile organic compounds to make them into volatile organic compounds. So here you are creating carcinogens, you know, in your sauna. But it's important to not reheat your toxic humidified sauna sweat that's like on canvas, because that cotton, it's a porous surface, and the enclosures with over time, some of the people that have the SaunaFix that used to have a canvas sauna for years, it began to smell and it was hard to wash, and then some people who did take it off the frame and washed it, then it has wrinkles in it. And so the canvas, without having the insulation value, with being porous, that's what I wanted to stay away from. And so I created the smooth surface so that you can clean it. Now the Breeze Safe, when you have the Breeze Safe in there, it gets rid of like in the 80s and 90% of these volatile organic compounds. It's got a, pathogen kill rate of in the 40%, but I've got a little ionic refresher that has a pathogen kill rate of like 99%. So I put those in my sauna. And one of the things that I do with the Breeze Safe, because it is high voltage, so you have some, EMFs in that, but if you're 40 inches away, but then if you, have everything plugged in for a Faraday cage, it's circulating around there, is I turn the Breeze Safe on the side. It's very small. And I have my tent panels, and I just poke the diffuser top underneath, and I've used my meter, and then it's very minuscule as far as, the EMFs coming off of that. But this Breeze Safe device is super special. Besides cleaning up the toxic humidified sauna sweat, I mean, with the smooth panels, you can still wipe it down. Like I have ozonated water, so I use that to wipe it down. So it's easy to maintain. You're not going to have the problems of smell or having it contaminated or anything like that. But with the Breeze Safe, this can go everywhere. So I was on an airplane, and I had this lucid dream where I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't awake. All these people were coughing and hacking, and I saw a little device on my tray table. So I already had a bigger air purifier. So I called the company I was working with and said it had to work on an external battery power bank that you can charge your cell phone with. It has to be small. So we created the Breeze Safe, and, in lab tests, so oftentimes in my sauna, I'll sit down. So I put this on the ground, measured up to my nose. That's 40 inches. So I wanted to know how many negative ions I was really breathing, because that's key to the rectal temperature and everything else. And it was 56,000 negative ions. So that was huge. And I had this family that bought these, and they were using it at their desk. And this gal was an asthmatic. And so she, was walking, there was smoke, and she was walking over to her desk and grabbing her asthma inhaler. And she happened to sit down, and she was like over her Breeze Safe, and she could breathe. So she started breathing over this device and didn't have to use the asthma inhaler. I mean, their whole family have lots of asthmatics, so they take these everywhere on little battery packs. But so I measured, if this is 40 inches away from you, you get all the 56,000 negative ions, so you're breathing it, but there's no EMFs. Distance cures that actually, in about 24 inches. So the risk, but the reward, it's like a few moments of some medium EMFs versus having to use a steroid inhaler. It's pretty good. But the other thing about my sauna and the other competitors is the size. They have no insulation. So they have this trapezoid shape. Some people kind of feel claustrophobic. You have to sit down on crawl in, sit down on a stool. And some people can't sit because of their back and all this kind of stuff. And I used to have a 4 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot.
Okay.
sauna. And I had this one customer that flipped it, put the floor against the wall and laid diagonal. She was short. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I've got to create a little transformer with a few brackets. So I changed the size of the tent to a 3 foot by 4 foot, because you have plenty of room that way. And my son's 6'5", so I made it like 6'6" tall.
Okay.
And so then I was concerned about it getting hot enough. I didn't know. So I made a drop ceiling so you could still get in like the old version, that's 5 foot tall, and get in there and sit down and sweat. And so what happened with that is the portable unit, the small one, is it'll get, without a preheat, 120 degrees in 5 minutes. So I tell people, don't preheat the thing. You don't need to preheat that sauna, because you will sweat, and it'll be great. And then if you put the drop ceiling in, you can get it 190 degrees. So I have a guy checking his rectal temperature. It was within 2 degrees of hyperthermic.
That's pretty amazing.
Now, hyperthermic therapy is like 25 grand a month. So, I mean, you can, once you work up to it, if you can handle it, you can put the drop ceiling in that small tent and get it super hot. Then I had people zipping 2 tents together and trying to do yoga. And it's like, oh my gosh, so what size do you want this thing? So then I made a bigger one and have the internal partitions to cut it in half, and the drop ceiling as well. And so now these biohackers, they're putting 2 sauna lamps in there, and they're putting their spinner bikes in there. They're, doing their kettlebell exercises. I have UFC fighters, shadow boxing in there. And so it's just kind of evolved.
For sure. It makes sense. That's the biggest thing I think that you do, is you always evolve, right? And that's why you get these kind of like new ideas, and you come up with new things to kind of solve a problem, which is amazing. So that's why your sauna is a great one in general. But let's move on to, I guess, some of the next things that you kind of do. And I guess a lot of people talk about anti-aging and all that kind of stuff, of course. So you have this whole skincare line, right? It's very unique or special, I guess. It's a tallow-based one. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about that in terms of some of those products, and also some of the toners as well that you have.
Sure. It kind of all evolved because, we wanted to use natural deodorant. And my daughter, especially, when you're pregnant and nursing, every couple of years, with the hormones, it's like nothing would work. Nothing. So we started playing around with the fat that's in the fascia sac right on top of the kidney of a cow. So a cow can have 300 pounds of fat. Really, there's only about 15, 20 pounds of the fat on top of the kidneys. So it's a lot cleaner. And then when you render it down, you only get 25% of that. We call it liquid gold. And so we started mixing it with olive oil, and just different things, arrowroot powder, and a little tiny bit of baking soda, because we knew that people were sensitive to baking soda. But we developed a deodorant. That was our first product.
Okay.
And then one of my grandsons, at the time we didn't know, was allergic to dairy, nuts, and eggs. And he had like psoriasis and eczema and would itch, and just, it was horrible. And so we created like a balm because of the cracking and the raised rashes and things like that. And we knew that animal fats, that's what our ancestors used, for skincare and for lotions. And it's our body loves it. Like if you accidentally get butter on your skin, it just like vanishes. Your body just absorbs it all. And so it's got all these fat soluble vitamins. So when we think about how compromised our nutrition is for digesting, we can get a lot of transdermal effects from the things we put on our skin. That's why, I read a study where women on average, maybe not this community because we're a little bit more aware, but But the typical people out there that aren't into health are putting 515 chemicals on their body a
I
day.
believe it. Yeah, makes
And
sense.
it goes right into the skin. So we started doing this balm so it wouldn't absorb as fast, and it could be working for cracking and, you know, different things like that on the skin. And, you know, we put some healing essential oils in it, and it really started doing some wonderful things. There's a review on my website actually from a vegan,
Okay.
you know. So I have people call and ask, well, did you have to kill the cow? And I'm going, yes, we, you know, the cow was butchered to get the kidney fat, but she had bought something else and we gave her a sample of it. And here she'd been on prescription medications. Nothing had helped. So out of desperation, she put some on her skin and it cleared up her skin. So she left this review. If any of the listeners go on there and read some of these skincare reviews, it's pretty amazing. But then, you know, people fell in love with the balms and they go, well, it just doesn't spread very well. You know, we need a lotion. So then I started reading into, because, you know, I'm concerned about polyunsaturated fatty acids now. We know we have way too much of those omega-6s and it's causing inflammation. And so I researched a blend of just different oils for different purposes. You know, especially for my grandson, we created this healing lotion. And so I calculated the polyunsaturated fatty acid. They say, okay, it's safe if it's below a 10. You know, so we ranged in the 2s to, I think I can't remember if our highest one is under 6, you know. So we do use, when you look at the ingredients, there are a few oils rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, but the amount that we use in the formulation is minuscule, and it's more for like a nutrition or a aspect of the healing component, you know, in the blend. So we created this healing lotion, you know, and it was kind of like making the light bulb, you know, multiple versions. And we put it on my grandson and he would stop itching and it cleared up his rashes where none of the other creams or anything would work. And then, you know, of course, and I'm thinking about, you know, aging of my skin. You know, if people from the community look at videos from me 10 years ago and look at me now, is because I'm using these toners and these nourishing, you know, products on my skin. And so it was just basically, again, problems, you know, people having problems. Yeah. And so then some people like they're very sensitive to even essential oils. So we made the moisturizer with an organic, high altitude lavender oil, and we put very little in there. And so people that couldn't tolerate other stuff are able to tolerate that. And you know, we live in Washington State, and there's this high soda lake here that has healing properties. And so I was comparing the mineral analysis of that water to the Dead Sea. And so I determined that, okay, so I want to get some minerals in my body transdermally and utilize Dead Sea, you know, along with other, you know, healing nutrients. And, you know, it actually helps. I always put the toner on my skin first. And then I put the lotion and it spreads more and, you know, gets great absorption. And so I created a general body toner. And there's a few reviews on there where they're saying, like, after I just put the body toner on, it feels like I put lotion on. You know, my skin is soft. You know, it helps protect the acid mantle. There's a lot of ingredients in there because, you know, with the alkaline minerals, so we had to get the mineral content up, but then we had to counterbalance it to maintain acid mantle, you know, for protection of the body. So we have a general body toner. Then we have an anti-aging toner. Then we have just a regular toner, you know, because there's other people out there. There's a huge the cost difference, and it's because of you know, the ingredients that are in, you know, the anti-aging. But I was sent a picture before and after of a woman, I think that Katerina, your sister, had worked with, that's in the community. And I had no idea that this was happening. I mean, I personally had experience of wrinkles going away, you know, toning, just all kinds of benefits like that, moisturizing without being greasy, you know, all those wonderful things that we like. But I just realized that we are getting some transdermal nutrition at higher levels than I previously thought.
Sure.
She had all these capillary bleeds. Did she show you the pictures of that woman as well?
I didn't see them yet, but I'm going to ask for her.
Yeah, it's like for years, this woman had all these capillary bleeds. And I mean, some of them were like really big on her arms. And she was using the Revive facial toner on her arms and the anti-aging lotion, and they completely are gone. All of them, like in, I can't remember if it was a month or two, but in a really quick time. And, you know, I've had other reports of miraculous skin conditions resolving, you know, rosacea and just all these, you know, breakouts and things like that. And so the products really do work, and we make them in our facility, and we've pretty much, we get the, you know, the fat from a group of farmers that are all grass fed. They don't, you know, have any animals with any injections or anything like that. A lot of it's organic, but we can't get enough fat to keep up with demand that's organic. And so, you know, basically all of our other oils and things like that are organic in the blend. And I think there's only like 2 essential oils that aren't organic, but, you know, we've since found a new source for getting those, you know, in organic. And so we'll be switching over to that. But we have 9 tallow-based skincare products in all. One of the things I'm a believer in is developing your sun callus by getting out early in the morning while the Kelvins are low, getting natural light in the eyes. But still, there were times, you know, I live in Eastern Washington here where we have 280 days of sun a year. So it's like you're getting way too much sun exposure, you know, for the skin. And so I wanted to develop something that was totally non-toxic, that wouldn't be greasy and everything else. So we developed a sunscreen. And so it's wonderful. People love it. There's great reviews on it. So we perfected that recipe. So we have 2 deodorants. There's one that's a lemon lime, and then there's one that has tea tree oil and lavender in it, but they kind of like cancel each other out. They don't smell like either one. So that happens to be my favorite one. And then a lot of people just swear by the lemon lime. My daughter likes the lemon lime the best because it's got lemon myrtle in it, which is more antibacterial than tea tree. So I would say for the listener who has maybe a really, you know, sweating smell problem, they would probably like the lemon lime version better. But these still allow you to sweat. This just doesn't allow any bacteria to grow on the surface of the skin. Then we have 2 balms. We have a lavender balm and then an acceptance blend balm, and it just has more of the healing anti-aging. Then we have the healing lotion, the moisturizer lotion, the anti-aging lotion, and the sunscreen. We are in development of several other creams with adding peptides in them. And so I don't know if the listeners look at the thickness of my eyebrows now, I don't have anything on them. Now, some of my older videos, I did have a pencil line, but there's some without it. If you can see how thick my eyebrows are now compared to what they were before. Which is a big difference. And I'm attributing it to these peptides in an eye cream that I'm working on. So that'll be coming out so we can have thicker lashes, thicker eyebrows, and less wrinkles around our eyes. So I'm working on that. And then
I don't think I want thicker eyebrows, I'll be honest.
well, as the women get older and our
Sure, of
hormones
course.
change, you know, we have those issues. But the other one that we're working on is like more of like an acne cream.
Okay, that makes sense for sure.
Because the toners work really great for the acne, but most people, even though these are anti-clogging or whatever, there have been a few people, including my daughter, that if she uses very much of the tallow on her face, she'll have a breakout. So we're in development of a lotion that's going to really work for that. And so focusing on the toners and very little of, you know, more maybe the balm, you know, if you've got, you know, a breakout or whatever, that would be better. But yeah, so we're just constantly, I guess, solving problems, but it's really well tolerated. People love it. You can look at all the reviews and see the results.
No, definitely. I think I have to try more of it then and see if I can get a little bit younger. Okay, so thank you for explaining that. So we'll get into like our last topic here. We have a little bit of time left to kind of talk about your healthy salt. So I guess the first thing to start off with is in terms of just explaining its uniqueness overall, like how it's kind of processed or mined and like how it gets to the table, right? And the last part, of course, is like how it's different from other salts. If we can start there, and then we can kind of go into a little bit other parts of it as well.
Sure. It is mined on an island in South Korea. And it's a 2,000-year-old processing secret from a family of an acupuncturist I know. And after they mine it, they rake it, spray it, wash it, and they add herbs to it. And of course, they won't tell me what herbs. So I've had the lab testing done, so we know exactly what ends up in this salt. But it's like a 3.5-year process. And then when it's finally ready, they put it into a special pot and burn it under high flame for days. So the mineral content of it is special, and it's got an 11.72 pH.
Okay.
But it also has a negative charge. You know, with the 20% mineral content, you know, so when I was a nuclear power plant inspector, auditor, trainer, engineer, whatever, one of my jobs was reviewing certificate mineral analysis for, you know, all the steel and the this and the that. And so I went on this quest to look at all the certificate mineral analysis of the salts, because I was really intrigued when I first met this acupuncturist. He had all my favorite salts, you know, on the table, because, you know, of course we avoid iodized salt. And so I was just using a variety of salts, you know, Himalayan pink salt, the Hawaiian, you know, just the gray Celtic sea salt, just all these different salts. And he had glasses, and you put a pinch of water and they would all remain acid. But when they put a pinch of the healthy salt in there, it went alkaline. So what I did is I cut my hair analysis just a 1/2 inch, used the healthy salt daily for a month. Then I stopped, did another hair analysis. So I did monthly hair analysis of short hair, because that represents time. And I went on and off the healthy salt every other month for 6 months to see what's it doing to me? You know, what's it doing? So it improved my thyroid and adrenal gland function.
Oh, wow.
And my body had less inflammation, and my body would pour out these heavy metals. Like I had such a cadmium dump that the doctor I was working with said he hadn't seen that ever. And so, of course, then I'm like panicking. Oh my gosh, what's in the salt? Did I poison myself? What's going on?
Mhm.
So I'm testing it all out. Sure enough, no cadmium at all. And when I was reviewing these certificate mineral analysis, like pink Himalayan has 0.8% minerals, but you read the package and you think you're having a mineral supplement. It has, like, for instance, 1 part per million magnesium. A serving of healthy salt has 6,800 parts per million. So when you're at 20% minerals versus less than 1%, you're just going to have higher amounts of everything.
And do you have a breakdown of like the mineral profile on your website for the healthy salt?
Yes, if you go to the footer and go to product testing,
Okay.
and then you have to, because all the ROHS testing for safety that I refer to for the saunas, everything is there. It's public. So
Okay,
you
good.
can click on the healthy salt and there's no microplastics, none of that. And it's broken down by what you're getting in a little scooper full per serving. And so the healthy salt, besides comparing to all these other salts, like Redmond real salt, it's mainly sodium. I mean, it's like all these salts are saying you're getting all these minerals, but it's so few. And the other interesting thing I came across, because there was a book, I think it was published in 2003, about water Soleil, putting, the pink salt in your water, which I did. And I started looking at the pH of pink Himalayan salt. The longer it's in the water, it drops to acid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ORP goes up. So it's more inflammatory. So I actually threw away all my pink Himalayan salt after I learned that. And then I ran across the Canton marine plasma. Now, I don't know if the listeners are familiar with that, but at World War I, there's a guy who was extracting from a mile-wide vortex between France and Spain seawater that had plankton in it, and he was giving IVs of this stuff to people and healing almost every disease known to man, and he was killed in World War I, and 1 million people went to this guy's funeral. Well, so I looked at the certificate mineral analysis of that Canton marine plasma, and the ratios of the minerals are so similar to healthy salt.
Okay.
And so, it doesn't have the plasma, the plankton from, the sea, but at least, you're seeing it's like why the body may love the healthy salt and react so favorably to it is, it's a lot about mineral ratios. And so the healthy salt is very powerful. That's the other thing people don't realize. And on the jar, when I literally say start, even though we give you a scooper, I say start with a toothpick. Because it's so powerful in ways that it affects you on a cellular level. See, outside our cells, it's supposed to be an alkaline environment. Inside, it needs to be acidic. And we have these heroes inside our cells called the lysosomes. And they need protons to lower the pH. So what happens when you have that alkalinity in your water, putting a little bit of healthy salt in there with that negative charge, it's causing protons to go inside the cells, which allows the lysosomes to drop their pH. So we're creating exclusion zone water. We know from Dr. Gerald Pollack at the University of Washington that when you have that alkalinity with a negative charge and you shine particularly any light, but more particularly 3,000 nanometers of light, it expands. So what does the heat lamp bulb have? It's got the 3,000 nanometers of light. That's why I teach, put a little healthy salt in your water, drink it before you go in the sauna, so that then you've got this maximized detox going on because the lysosomes are dropping their pH, cleaning up the molecular debris. And then because of the inside differential to the outside, the acidic to the alkalinity, it's creating hydroelectricity, and it's able to store that energy in the exclusion zone water that's expanding your body while you're under those lights. So that would explain why when I would do that hair analysis, the huge dump of all these toxic metals that aren't in the salt, they're coming out of my body. My body loves the minerals. It's like all of a sudden, oh my gosh, new car parts are here. We can get the right mineral in your enzyme binding side of your cell. So it's just this transformation that happens. And you'd think that it was snake oil reading the product reviews on the healthy salt. It's just incredible. I really love that book about your body's many cries for water, about dehydration, about how, 80% of diseases are caused by dehydration, and adding in salt with the water you drink. I mean, there's great instructions in that book, even for people with high blood pressure. I have to tell a story about it. It's a woman with high blood pressure. So of course, standard doctors, not Dr. Nick, would say, stop taking salt. So she does. So then she develops frequent urination because, salt sucks. Salt helps retain hydration. And so when you're avoiding salt and you don't have the minerals, you're going to have frequent urination. So then she stops drinking water earlier in the evening so she doesn't have to get up and go pee. But then she develops asthma symptoms at night. So when you read that book about your body's many cries for water, what's happening here is your body's conserving water. It's like constricting your blood vessels so that it can wring water out of your bloodstream to send it through your nerve sheaths to more important locations in the body. It's like you have water allocation mechanisms in the body based on histamine receptors. So your body is increasing the blood pressure to get the water, to where it needs to go. And one of the aspects of moisture loss in the body is through breathing. So it's going to constrict the lungs. And so someone like that needs to start baby steps with very little bits amount, and they'll notice that their frequent urination slows, or notice that their, lung constriction problem dissipates. And there's actually a review on the website with this mother who'd been on high blood pressure medications for years. I can't remember if he said 10 or 20 years. Even with the medication, she was at a dangerously high level. And within short order, her blood pressure goes down to like in the 130s. I think he said 139 in the review. I mean, people can read it for themselves, but these are like phenomenal changes. And it's really the root of dehydration. I mean, any salt except iodized salt is going to help with that. But if you can take a salt that's potent, packed with minerals, with the negative charge and, the high alkalinity, you're going to get some good results. But a lot of people, I got to warn the listeners to start with that toothpick, because your body will think it won the lottery. It'll detoxify so fast that you're going to have Hexheimer reactions. So it's one of the common things is a headache.
Makes sense.
So just beware, and a little bit goes a long way.
So to summarize that part of it, I guess for the healthy salt, because you're talking about like the easy water or just kind of like structured water. So is it that you feel that when you're using the healthy salt and doing the sauna, that you're kind of like structuring the water or the interstitial fluid in the body in a sense? Is that what you feel is happening?
Yes. Okay. I think that's what's happening. Because we know there's going to be that increase of protons going in and the release of the toxins, but we just know that shining 3,000 nanometers of light on the skin is going to expand exclusion zone water in your body. And when you give it a leg up with that alkalinity and negative charge,
for sure, The electrons. Makes sense then. Okay, that's good to know. So we're going to finish off here, but we have a last question. So this is kind of like you got 60 seconds to answer, but we can do our best in that regard. There's two parts to it in a sense. There's two kind of specific questions. So if you had like all the money in the world, like what would be your top tool that you would use for your health? That's kind of part one of the question.
Definitely the SaunaFix system, so you can maximize. We only have so much time. You can't buy more time.
Okay.
So if you can stack your hacks and get more benefit out of your efforts, that's what you've got to do.
Okay,
and
perfect.
So I would say the SaunaFix, a big reason why I lost the 30 pounds that I did over the course of like a year and a half was I switched from the small portable sauna instead of just laying down.
Yeah.
I have the yoga sauna where I'm doing movement. Now I do other stretching and exercises. I'm not a yoga person. I just call it a yoga sauna. People do yoga in there, but there's something very special about movement and exercise, in the sauna. So that's top.
But then if the second part of that question is like, if you had no money in the world, if you had a very minimal budget, what would be your go-to tool for your health? All that you know now.
I would say a daily coffee enema.
Okay.
For the person, because of, we could talk an hour about what that does, but that's what I'd recommend. And with the sauna, I would say that, because you said the top two things, because your number one exposure is breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get the Breathe Safe, so you can increase your oxygen levels, be breathing clean air. Just don't use it in the sauna. Sleep with it, put it in your car, put it at your desk to counteract the poisonous positive ions coming off of our electronics, everything like that.
Okay, perfect. So I know today you have kind of like a special community offer, but in general, with the Healing Together community, when they use the code HT10, they get 10% off in general in terms of your website. But there is a special offer that you have today as well. Can you kind of explain that for the viewers?
Sure. So if you order the portable sauna bundle that comes with the lamp and the travel bags and the tent, the bamboo mats, and the glasses and the hanging apparatus, everything you need, then we will automatically send you the folding bamboo stool with the matching travel bag. And that is finished with the same FDA approved for a cutting board in your kitchen, so it's non-toxic. So you'll get that for free. It sells for $185. And then if you order the yoga sauna, we will include the Breathe Safe. And this just is, you don't have to do anything. You just use that coupon code, and my shipping department will add those items for free.
Perfect. That's very generous of you. I think everybody appreciates that. And again, thank you for today, for kind of explaining kind of the stuff that you do in terms of your different gizmos. And I know there's going to be more that you're going to add. So I'm intrigued. I'll be honest, I'm intrigued in terms of your peptide kind of skincare lotion that might be coming out in the future, to see kind of how that works as well. But overall, thank you very much, Eileen, for all your expertise today. And thank you guys for listening and watching. Follow, like, and subscribe to this channel as well too. Have a great day.
Thanks.
To learn more about Creatrix Solutions and Eileen Durfee's products and work, please visit healingtogether.org/Creatrix and use community discount code HT10 to save 10% off your order. If you found this podcast helpful and are looking for a way to support our channel, please visit healingtogether.org/support. Like, follow, subscribe to our social media handles, as well as our newsletter at www.healingtogether.org. And as always, keep caring, keep sharing, and let's continue healing together.